Good evening. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am your West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to this important news update on the continent. Focus on Liberia uses this particular opportunity to come to you with daily event that interests the continent, event that actually have to do with the African continent. We dissect on these issues and ensure that we relate them to other issues within the world and see how we as Africans can think alike and solve. Some people are sympathizer with China, some people will still stick with their colonial master state, France, and other people. So now we realize that Africa now is now suffering from great division. As I normally say, if we are now seeing like the most ID ground where those corrupt past colonial masters want to come and trade against. We are now young, I think, by then when they colonized Africa, Africa was not as exposed as it is. Maybe we are having the population was not compared to this particular status. We are having educated people on the continent, but definitely incomparable to what we are definitely having. I think Africa have been equipped mentally. We have learned our past lessons, both are bitters, and we have understood how we can navigate things that we actually bring some amount of reconstructivity into our mentality. We can even deconstruct certain things and maybe depoliticize sensitive things that are liable to creating problems into our society, and also accept the fact that if we cannot change Africa as for ourselves, if we cannot think the African way, we think globally, we localize it and try to solve the African problem, we end up to create more issues than the one that we can solve. So welcome to this important news update. Focus on Liberia actually come to you on a daily basis to ensure that we discuss things that are not limited to Liberia, that are not limited to Guinea, that are not limited to Sierra Leone, things that happened within the continent, and those important events that I think and feel that a Focus on Africa can use it. I mean, Focus on Liberia can use it to come with those things. And some of those things are happening into North Africa, East, South, and Central Africa. You can see they can be related. So it tells you that most of what happened in neighboring countries can also happen in our own countries. But we can learn from those events and also try to make some corrective measures. They said, the wisest person is somebody who learns from the mistake of others. Maybe if we can learn from the mistake of other countries, we can adequately implement certain decisions into our country that will not create further chaos. Let's see. 5 dangerous prisoners escaped from Tunisia. Honestly speaking, each time there is a prison break into certain African countries, believe that there is power connected to such thing that is beyond reasonable understanding. One need to think extraordinarily to capture the reason why prison breaks happen into certain country, and sensitive political criminals or prisoners escape within that particular period. 5 dangerous prisoners escaped from prison into Tunisia. We all know Al bin Ali of what? Of Tunisia. He was the longest serving president into that country. Unfortunately, during the Arab uprising in 2011, he was being used as one of the yardstick where demonstration erupted of protest, and his leadership was overthrown. Since that, we have seen how the Arab war evolved into a very radical society. The Arab rising in 2011 saw the life of Hosni Mubarak of Egypt leaving. The Tunisian president left. President Muammar Gaddafi of Libya was killed. The one in Algeria was often overthrown. Then places like Morocco, all of them we are definitely affected. But since then, Egypt has managed to gain some stability. Libya went into bitter war. We are now seeing a country being governed by faction. Of course, Algeria is a bit stable since the fall of their long-serving president. Unfortunately, Tunisia, that was seen as the uninterrupted democracy after the Arab Spring, did not survive. And we also remember that it was that Arab Spring that went as far as into the Middle East since the war started in Syria. Up to now, it has never survived. From 2011 to 2023. So we are now seeing that 12 good years of violent demonstration we related into chaos. We are seeing Daesh, ISIS, and other people existing into Syria, which is in the Middle East. But in Tunisia, a man who was termed as politically unknown, a professor by law, came into power. Many people had the belief that he is now in position to change the political philosophy of Tunisia and maybe engage the people on practical democracy. Unfortunately, he has been seen as a violator of democracy, a promoter of hate speech, and also an apologist of violence. Sacked the parliament, handicapped the executive, and appointed yes men into his judiciary. Even members of the fourth estate, that is the media, are not being accorded ample right. If you can say anything against the sitting government of Tunisia, the next day you are liable to be taken into prison, tortured. Now, 4 dangerously termed criminals have escaped. And it is widely alleged that some of them were convicted for killing politicians, involving into malicious damage, even involving to public demonstration that ended fatally. Those guys are now out of prison through prison break. Nobody knows who facilitated their prison break and their escape from the prison officers. Of course, the so-called government of Tunisia, including the judiciary, the police, have now embarked on seeing how they can swiftly investigate and bring those guys to book. We are praying, we are hoping and thinking that maybe they should be brought to book and ensure that they are being prosecuted for the crimes that they committed. But things like this are highly connected. It was a well orchestrated or syndicated act because certain people maybe are beneficiaries from their escape. Because had they been there, trials and other things continuing, those guys could have easily called names and they do not want big heads to rule. So maybe that is the reason why they escaped. Let's see, the United States removed 4 countries from the USA free access trade. One of those countries are Uganda. One of those countries definitely Uganda. Then Angola, Niger, and the Central African Republic, CAR. Some of them have been removed for the failure to uphold the tenets of democracy, like Uganda. Of course, Angola, after it overthrown its longest serving president, or one of its longest serving presidents, it has not lived up to the expectation of reinstalling democracy. Niger, Central African Republic, violators of human rights, military presence into their country. So the United States have withdrawn that particular free access trade. About 1,800 goods. Actually, most African countries are benefiting from it when they have free access of trade to the United States. So Joe Biden government have decided to evoke their right and emphatically said that anytime they adhere to democracy principle, respect human rights, and have a democratically elected government, that is legitimized by the people, then they still have the right to enjoy, be him in power whatsoever thing. That is what they are saying. So around 6.9 people display in DRC Congo. Very important. The Democratic Republic of Congo is facing a wave of violence from the pattern of behavior by the M23 rebels. Of course, East African peacekeeping forces, including the Rwandese, Ugandans, Kenyans, Burundis are found into the country, but the Democratic Republic of Congo government is saying that these guys are not performing the attacks. Maybe in one or two ways, they are even facilitating the insurgents into those places, and they are asking them to leave. And the M23 rebels are becoming so powerful by the day. They have resulted in doing a lot of this. Really, what is happening in Africa. It's very sad, it's very unfortunate, and it is so affecting almost everything. Some of us know, because I live as a refugee in Guinea. I understand what I went through. I know exactly the type of frustration. I know exactly the type of intimidation as a child when I was growing up in Guinea. I know exactly how we are intimidated, molested, harassed, sometimes tortured. Sometimes you feel as if you are classless. You don't belong anywhere. You are insulted. You are harassed. You are molested. Each time there is a public protest, you can be like an object of target. Mob justice is very easy. These Congolese are facing that. They are being displaced. Some of them are tortured. They are raped. House on earth is being committed against their person by burning down their especially like houses. Women are subjected to unnecessary violence. Extrajudicial killing is taking place, and those so-called peacekeeping forces who are actually there to ensure that they wear those blue bureaus instead of the black bureau, according to them, they are facilitating the wars. It's a very sad event in Africa. It's all about poverty. Poverty, ignorance, and illiteracy is creating huge, or they are definitely creating huge problem into Africa. Each time you see, sometimes you even send people for the right purpose to change it to another thing because they think that those people can easily be exploited. It's a sad event. African leaders should take note of that and see how they could do. Then finally, we end into Mali. The UN peacekeeping forces are gradually leaving Mali, Chad, and they will also leave places like Burkina Faso because they're falling out with the so-called military juntas within this region, and those guys are definitely asking them to leave. We are wondering how the Sahel may be, because when all of these guys, when the French forces may have departed, United States forces departed, then also we are seeing the UN forces will definitely leave, and maybe the Wagner group that was to maintain peace and order, its leader Prigozhin was killed, but we don't know who. Still, Russia is having some tie, and Daesh, IC, those Tuareg rebels and other insurgent movements, the dissidents are still existing into the region. We need to be very careful about what is happening in the African sub-Saharan area, especially in places where we have military junta, and very close to the northern part of Africa, they may end up becoming failed state. It's a very sad event. I think Africa need to be very, very careful of what happened. Unfortunately, we are not helping the situation. Some leaders are definitely not helping the situation. There's a text message here, but I don't think how related it is. In fact, God did not create anyone to be poor. You are to decide for yourself. I am a spiritual healer. I am not. I'm sorry, this is not part and parcel of my program. I'm not going to read it. And I advise that you comment based on issues that we are discussing. This is not a herbalist program. If you need to advertise your spiritually gifted mentality, maybe you can use another forum. This is strictly to discuss African issues. It's not meant to get you rich overnight. Maybe some of us do not believe into that of your ideology, but you have where to go and advertise it. I advise you look for the forum. Focus on Liberia, Roundtable Africa, or the media per se does not promote stock like that. Thank you for your understanding. Good night.